all back together, and welcome back to Living with a Classic, and we're here with this Series 2 early XJ12 on carbs. And like you saw in the intro, it doesn't want to idle. That's pretty well, otherwise, well, I mean, yeah, it links a little bit more work, but it doesn't want to idle. I have a theory of what it is, and I've actually just taken some things apart to show you guys, and my theory seems to be correct so far. So you know, it has Stromberg carbs, and it uses little diaphragms, and when they tear and rip, you get odd issues like this. And I opened up all the carbs, and would you know, the last one I opened up, it's ripped. So let me show you that, and then we will, start going through the carbs, going complete tune-up, and getting this thing running really nicely again. The nice thing about it, it's original and unrestored, and just for the last couple of years, it hasn't been idling. So they've been driving a little bit in the summer, but using the choke a bit whenever you need to come to a stop. So it doesn't turn off. It doesn't warm, hot, doesn't matter. It needs choke to idle. But let me have a look at that, and we'll go through. Haven't decided how much we're going to rebuild yet. I have rebuild kits and everything at home for these all the time, but let's have a look at it together. So here is one of the diaphragms. And this is typical. It's starting to get soft. And that's also why I think I should replace it, because when they start to get this sort of soft, they're not far away from tearing. What can also happen is if someone doesn't have the correct tool or knowledge when trying to adjust the mixture, you need to have a mixture adjustment tool that holds the piston part still while you can turn the Allen screw inside here. If you don't, you will twist this whole diaphragm, and that will damage it. And on the other side, one of them is damaged in that way, and this one is torn. So definitely not in good shape. I have new ones, so we'll replace all of those. Then let's fire it up, see if it runs better, and then after that I have tune-up items for it. I have new plugs, I have cap and rotor, wires, all of those good things, because these feel, yeah, they're starting to get cracked. And then I noticed the cars had, pretty new radiator hoses and things. However, I forgot about these hoses down here, which go through the intake, and they are bulging and not in good condition. So I'm going to replace those as well. But let's start with these. I'll show you one of them on the bench. How you replace this really easy. It's just these screws. I'll replace them all. We'll put it back together. I will also check the mixtures here. See, that one is really too far out. They tried to lean that out way too far. So I'll set everything to the standard setting, which is that the bit there that goes out from the needle, that needs to be level with the rest of the piston. So we'll set all that when it's apart as well. But we'll go through all of that, and I have made videos before on tuning these things, so you can check that if you want to. But we'll do a brief update on that. It does take about 3 or 4 hours, about 3 hours probably, to do a complete tune, set the timing and everything, and balance these carbs out. So when you have a car like this, make sure you have a full tank of fuel before you start balancing the carbs. Well, the old one, you see, is, yeah, I think I can almost pull it apart. Not really good at all. New ones are much better, and especially the ones made in the last couple of years, they can withstand ethanol and all that. They've changed the formulas for these, so the ones in here could definitely be original. So you see, this is what they're supposed to be like. They have some sort of talcum powder or something on them. The important thing is you have like an indentation there, or the indentation is in here, but there's a piece sticking out, and that's the way it needs to go onto there. But I'm going to clean this area first with just a little bit of very clean and a rag, and then we'll put this on and that and the screws, and it should hold into place. Let me just get a rag. Some old pieces of the rubber here. Basically, this needs to be airtight. And that's the way it sits. And I'm just going to clean up this part as well. There we go. Then we have some screws just to put it all back together. And this part is not specific to the Jag V12, the diaphragm in here. All of these Stromberg 175 carbs, the diaphragms are the same. So you can buy them, you know, for any car that has these carbs on it. It's just that on these V12s, you need 4 of them. However, the rest of the carbs are usually a little bit different. Fuel bowls and things are usually the same, but there are other small differences. These have manual chokes on them. Many of these had water chokes on them and other automatic things, so the V12 ones are different. Don't go crazy with tightening, but once again, you don't want these to come loose. There we go. That is ready to put in the car. Only 3 more to go. All back together, and it did fire up really well and ran on choking, and I warmed it up a bit, and it almost wanted to idle. So what I did after that was I just did the basic setting where you center the jaw here for the adjustment on both sides. You slacken off that one all the way, that one all the way, and then you do 1.5 turns in on these 2, and that's the basic to tune these carbs. And now it idles. Definitely needs to tune, needs to balance. But it idles slow, sort of, yeah, it needs to tune. But I think if I actually crank it over, I think it's going to run again. There we go. But yeah, needs that done. But before I can continue, of course, you always need to go through and check ignition before you tune cars. But I just did the basic setting just to make sure that my idea is fine. Yeah, and I got my son with me hanging out here. So I'll turn it off, let it cool down. We'll do plugs, wires, cap, and rotor. Make sure everything's fine. Set the timing, and then I'll tune the carbs, and I'll show you guys how it runs after that. Well, got a little carried away. Talked to the owner, and we thought it's just a good idea to do a quick rebuild of the carbs because we were, this far, and then replace these hoses like I talked about. So this side is all back together, and by rebuild I mean just taking apart, clean it, new gaskets. There is no ring in the bottom here. I'll show you that on the other carbs, and that's what can go bad on these, and it will leak all the way down here. So replace that, clean it out. They were really pretty clean inside. A little bit of sediment, but not bad for 50-year-old carbs that probably have never been apart. And here we go. Here is one just put back together. Not going for anything crazy, just nice and clean. I mean, if you compare it to this one, which is the next one, last one, it does look a lot better. So I'll take this apart, let it soak, and then I'll show you just some quick things. I've done a complete rebuild series on these before. It's not really too difficult. This is only half the carbs have chokes on the V12, so this side doesn't have a choke. This side does. Here we have the choke mechanism. So took that apart, cleaned that, new gaskets in there as well. So hopefully everything works a lot better. But I'll let this soak, and then later I'll just show you some small tricks when I assemble these again. Fresh out of my parts cleaner, and I just removed the screws here for the bowl. And you see, they all look the same. A tiny bit of sediment right there. Really not bad at all, because the fuel, a jet picks up not all around there. So I say that's not bad at all, but it's good to replace this gasket. Even though, everything was in good shape, but you never know and where we're going so far. Anyways, but it's the O-ring in there, which you just pry out this plug, and that's the ones that can fail. sometimes, and they're quite difficult to get to on the car. Other than that, I just put in some new gaskets around here, the this anti-run-on valves and things, and just check out and clean everything. But not a complete rebuild, but more of a freshen up on a nice low mileage car and just make sure that nothing leaks. So I'll put all this back together, pretty straightforward. We already have new diaphragms here, and I'll clean up that part of the intake as well, place those hoses, put it all back together, and then we'll move on to the ignition system. And many hours later, it's all together. Replace coolant hoses as well. So you can see those here, all the small lines, all the fuel lines are new. Everything's connected back up, the choke and everything. Big fuel lines replaced as well. And we have new spark plugs, cleaned up the valley, new HT leads, carburetor, you name it. It's all new and we are pretty much ready to fire it up. And just like that, it's actually a couple weeks later. I came down with a really bad flu, been down for weeks, and I've been better now for a bit, and coughing a lot, but now most of that's gone. However, it's all tuned up, and I've done another couple small things. I replaced the ball joint and a couple other just advisories and things, and now this car has a fresh MOT or inspection for life. It passed with no advisories, nothing, and it runs really sweetly. I've just been back from the test and that went really well. So let me fire it up for you guys, just show a hot start, show how nicely it runs. Now it idles, it had perfect emissions and everything. So the work done on the carbs and all that was really worth it. We can just reach in here and fire right up. Really good idle, and is as smooth as can be. If I had a coin, we could balance it on the engine. It turns to a nice smooth idle. Good exhaust snow out the back. Oh, dog's frisbee. Everything just running really sweetly. And it pulls like a train. These carbureted V12s, I've said it so many times, they're my favorite. They run so well when they're set up correctly. They're an absolute joy to drive. So, but let's switch this one off now. Well, the only thing left to do before this can return to the customer is an oil change. But I wanted to get it really nice and warm. So now we've been for, there and back and everything, more than an hour's drive. I'm going to pull into the workshop now and let the oil drain out. And then tomorrow, put in fresh oil and a fresh oil filter. Anyways, if you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up and share it with friends. If you're not already subscribed to the channel, please do subscribe to the channel. It really does help out a lot. And I feel like I'm really back on my feet again, so we'll have regular videos on the channel once again. Until next time, I'm Adam. This is Living with a Classic. I'll see you soon.